Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I just want to start this video off by saying if I sound sick it's because I am and I apologize, but the show must go on. So today we're going to be talking about all the books I read in March and then picking my TBR for April. So if I annoy you, you don't have to stay and watch. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. I'm really sorry. I'm a mess right now, okay? But I hope you enjoy my video. Let's get this going. So this month I ended up reading 6 books. Now, again, so that's 6 books every month this year so far. Now, I didn't get to all the books on my TBR. So on my TBR for March, I had Air of Fire, The Teacher, If He Had Been With Me, Harry Potter, the 7th one, Things We Never Got Over, and You Like It Darker. Now, of those 6 books, I read 3 of them, started one, and didn't get to the other 2. I didn't end up getting to Harry Potter, the 7th one, mainly because by the time I'd finished all my other books, it's really already nearly the end of the month, and I just knew I wouldn't be able to finish it, so I just didn't start. And then, Things We Never Got Over, this one, I just really was not in the mood for those kind of books, so I just didn't get up to it. No other excuse, I apologize. And then I'm currently reading You Like It Darker by Stephen King. I know, I actually did start it. It's been on my TBR literally like 6 months in a row. Or at least 6 times, so I actually did start it. I'm proud of myself, that's what I'm saying. Also, I can barely freaking hear out of my right ear. I don't know what's going on there. But let's get into talking about the 6 books I did read. First book I read was The Teacher by Freida McFadden, and I believe, what did I rate this? So I rated this book a 4.5, which I rated all her other books, like the Housemaid series, One by One, Never Lie. I'm pretty sure I nearly rated all of them a 5, maybe one I rated like 4.5 or something, but no, I rated this a 4.5. I did enjoy this book actually quite a lot, and yeah, I did enjoy it. I just thought for some reason I read this last month. I'm getting confused. This is how the whole video is gonna be. This book I did enjoy, but it's got that aspect of, like, you know, a teacher. It's about a woman called Eve, and she has a husband. Her life seems like perfect. She lives in a nice house, has a dream job as a maths teacher. She has a beautiful husband, also she seems. Anyway, and the book starts off by basically saying how a teacher she worked with was fired for an inappropriate relationship with a student, and the student was called Addie. Now this student has come back to school, everyone's like shunned her, like everyone liked the teacher, everyone's questioning why she did things with this old man, old ugly fat man, I believe they describe him sometimes as. And then the only person that really understands her is her English teacher, which is also Eve's husband. Now she writes poetry and she ends up in the club with him, and they form this relationship, and she gets praise from him all the time, and she begins to become a bit like infatuated with him, I'd say. And they form, sorry, if you don't want spoilers, I probably wouldn't be listening. Should have probably said that. Anyway, they form this relationship, sexual relationship. How old is she? 15, I think. Yeah, I think she's 15. So they form this sexual relationship. So she's sleeping with her teacher, literally in a dark room in the school. She's sleeping with the teacher, and she becomes obsessed with him. They say they're in love. She literally shows up to his house where the other teacher is the wife, and like the wife sees her and like knows that she's being stalked, and she thinks she's being stalked because they don't have a good relationship. Eve and Addie, they do not get along. Addie forms this relationship with the English teacher, and it just ends so unexpectedly. So unexpectedly. I was actually flabbergasted. It was definitely one of the best plot twists any Freida McFadden book I've read has had. Because the thing with Freida McFadden books is the plot is very telling, so it's very easy to guess where the storyline is going, and also who's going to end up being like the main bad guy, I guess. So that's usually how it ends. But this, I was just literally flabbergasted. So I'm going to give you spoilers because I apparently can't help but give spoilers. Eve, the wife, finds out about Addie and her husband's affair. I don't know what his name is, I apologize. But she finds out about their affair. She makes him leave. So she makes him leave. Addie ends up literally knocking her out over the head. So knocking the wife over the head. And then her husband comes back. They end up burying her. But basically the husband has set Addie up to take the fall for her murder. Because he's actually the bad guy. Obviously, he's sleeping with students, like I should have guessed. Anyway, it comes out that Addie's enemy at school was also previously the one that was... She was the one having a previous relationship with the teacher before Addie did. And yeah, so they go to the police about him and everything. Eve actually wasn't... She was buried, but she ended up getting out alive because leaves were chucked on her, not just dirt. So she got out of the literal grave alive, and she got some help from someone that you find out later. Anyway, so her and this other person end up murdering the husband. Fair, honestly. I mean, probably not fair, but like, you know. Anyway. And in the end, I'll just say this, Addie was not the only one having a relationship with the teacher. Her best friend also was. Her best friend, who's a guy, was also having a relationship with Eve, the wife. So, but there you go. That was just a big tangent just for that, really. But anyway. So, I did rate this a 4.5. I probably would have rated a 5 if it was, but I just can't seem to do that. Because it did make me slightly, like, uncomfortable knowing it's a student-teacher relationship. So, take that with what you will. I then read Keeping 13, which I did start in February, and I believe it was on my February TBR. Rated this a 4.5, and I had rated the previous one, Binding 13, a 5. I don't really know why I didn't rate this a 5. I just didn't get that 5-star feeling I did when I read Binding 13. I'm really cold, just give me a minute. That's better. Sorry for the outfit change. But obviously these books are known to be very confronting, facing a lot of different storylines, and so yeah. Look, so this is the second book for Johnny and Shannon, and their final book, I believe. The rest of the books in the series follow different couples. Look, this took me quite a long time to read, not because I didn't enjoy it, even in the slightest, just because I was reading other books with it, which I do think benefited me because I could follow the storyline a lot better and understand on an emotional level a lot clearer. Now, spoilers again. This book begins with Shannon having been... Probably trigger warnings too, I don't know. This book begins with Shannon having been beaten up by her dad to the point where she needs to be in hospital. Now, if that wasn't confronting enough, throughout the book a lot of traumatic, horrific things happen. Her dad does end up having a restraining, I believe, like a kind of like a restraining order against him. He's not allowed near his children. So obviously that's the beginning of the good stuff. He comes back in their life, trauma all over again, really. Shannon's really finding it difficult to deal with her trauma whilst also dating Joey, that's her brother. She's also dating Johnny, who's obviously helping her, but She's also going through a lot of growth with him because it's her first relationship. She's so deeply in love with this man. She's also trying to help him through because he's on a break from rugby because he had surgery on the lower half. So he's also having to deal with that whilst also comforting Shannon through all of this hardship in her life. He's also helping her brother Joey and her other little siblings because they live in a house with a mum that is so zonked and so zoned out from her children and so depressed and an alcoholic and sleeping all day and doing everything to probably like avoid her children, kind of like. It's really difficult to explain because the mum has obviously been through so much trauma as well with the dad, but she's not there for her children either. So it's a hard dynamic to like put in words, I'd say. I think it's like few hundred pages from the end, and her parents end up dying really horrifically. I won't say how, but really horrifically, nothing that should ever happen. And it really does emphasize how bad abuse, obviously it's bad to begin with, but how bad it can really get. Which is why I like these books, because they're very realistic and show real life problems. But they end up dying. Her and her siblings end up moving in with Johnny and Johnny's parents, and they are like adopted by this family, and his parents are like amazing. They literally bring these kids into their life, treat them like their own, everything. Johnny ends up leaving to go play rugby professionally, kind of, I guess it's professionally, I don't know. And it just ends in such a full circle, like beautiful moment. It's like shows like basically saying like how more at ease they are now because of everything that's happened. The only reason I can think that I didn't rate it a 5 is probably because I feel like in Binding 13, I'm learning about all these different characters. I'm learning about her family dynamic. It's a lot more fast-paced, I'd say, whereas in this one, it's more so about Johnny and Shannon's relationship. You don't really see much of her parents and stuff until like only in certain parts of the book. I did really enjoy it though, and I'm excited to read the other books in this series, especially because it's about different characters. So I rated this book a 4.5 stars. I then read If He Had Been With Me, which I also rated a 4.5 star. I keep needing to sneeze and it's not coming out. Now I'm looking at it, I actually didn't have any 5-star books this month. Anyway, so I rated If He Had Been With Me a 4.5 star. Now, I really did enjoy this book. I definitely enjoyed the second half more. So it's about two childhood best friends, Autumn and Finn, and they live next door to each other. Their mums are best friends. They've grown up together, these kids. They've always been best friends, always been in each other's lives until some point. And then in high school, I guess our high school, I don't know if it's their high school, whatever. They have grown apart because something happened in the past, which you find out. They've grown apart like friendships do. But they don't really hang out, nothing. And it's just the whole book is them like slower and slower coming back together. Now, they both are in relationships, but really the entire time that they're in these relationships, you know that they're in love with one another. You just know. So this whole book is from Autumn's perspective, I believe. Anyway, and the next book in this series is about them dealing with the grief. Because in the end of this book, Finn dies, and it was one of the saddest things I've read because I knew it was coming. Because in the first few pages they say about someone dying. I think they said about him dying, in fact. So I knew it was coming, and I think that made it worse. Yeah. In the beginning it says how Finn dies, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect it to hurt so much, because basically what happens is they finally, after all these pages, they finally tell each other how they feel. They end up sharing a night together, if you know what I mean. And then the next day he's going to break up with his girlfriend. I know, I don't condone cheating, but he's going to break up with his girlfriend, gets in a car crash, and then he dies. And the worst part about this book is after he dies, she then wants to die. So she tries to kill herself, doesn't work out, thankfully, and then she finds out she's pregnant with his kid. And that literally broke my heart. Because I was imagining that was me and Bodhi had somehow passed away and I was pregnant with his child. Like, obviously you gotta look at the, like, positives. Like, you've got a kid, you've made a kid with the person you love, but they're not there. Like, so it was just so sad. And I've heard people say how sad this book is. But because it wasn't sad, like, all these pages, and then suddenly these pages, I was, like, crying. I don't cry for books. I think I tear up occasionally. Like, I've teared up for like 2 books. Like, this one I did tear up a lot too. It was just nothing better than imagining yourself in these books and then making it worse for yourself. So I did rate this a 4.5. And then the next book I read was The Locked Door. Now, I picked this book up because I just wanted a nice simple read. I could finish in like a day or two, give myself some hope that I was actually going to read 6 books this month, okay? Because I was going through a little bit of a reading slump. This was definitely my least favourite Frida McFadden book I've read. Not to say it was bad, even in the slightest, though. The thing with Frida McFadden books is you will guess the plot. You will. You will know what's going to happen every step of the way. But most of the time I enjoy that because occasionally there'll be a few twists and turns in there that you didn't expect. But this book, I literally guessed every single thing. I guessed who the killer was, who all the bad people were, I guessed it all. Okay? But nonetheless, this book is about Nora, and she grew up with her dad literally killing people in her basement. Okay? That's the first thing you need to wrap your head around. So her dad's in prison for life for murdering these women. And now, decades later, she's in like her 20s or 30s even, I don't know. And someone has begun killing people again in the same style her dad did. So immediately people assuming it's her. So she's hid her whole life and no one knows that she's related to this man. But then the police come after her because they obviously know who she really is. And they think that it must be her that's killing all these people. Spoiler alert, it's not her, okay? We all knew it wasn't going to be her. No way would they say from the beginning it was her if it's not her. When it is really not her. And then you find out it's actually her long-lost sister that she never knew about, and it was the reason her mother killed herself. So her mother also killed herself because, well, you find out it's because she's pregnant and she wants the baby to die because she doesn't want her baby to be born and possibly end up being a serial killer like husband. But yeah. It's just, yeah. I don't really have anything to say. I don't really have any thoughts or feelings. I read this in 2 days. It's always a nice and easy read, but yeah, I rated it 3.5. Nothing too special about it, nothing crazy. Like, I'm gonna continue reading her books, but you gotta have a dud in there occasionally. The next book I read was definitely not intended for me to read. I didn't plan on reading it this month, but I was like, what the heck, why not? It was The Final Gambit, which is final book in the series. I believe there's like standalone books in the series as well, but are they standalones or actually part of it? I think they're just standalones. What, the Brothers of Hawthorne and Granner's Game. But I read this and I rated this a 4.5, which is, I rated the other 2 books a 5 stars, so this was my least favorite. And honestly, thinking back on it, so I read this in like 5 days, and the other 2 I read in 1 or 2 days. So I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did I just not really fully pay attention to those books? That's why I read them so highly, but I don't think so. I think I just enjoyed them more. But obviously in this one, it's about Avery, and she's about to literally actually inherit all this money. Like, it'll be hers when she turns 18, and it just, her dad, Toby, it's not really her dad, but it's technically her dad, gets kidnapped, and the whole book is her and the brothers trying to find out who took Toby and where he is. And they find out who he is that took him. And yeah, there's just a lot. I don't really have anything to say about this book really either. I did really enjoy it. I liked how it wrapped up. Nothing more interesting than a love triangle with two brothers, that's all I'm saying. I can't even imagine myself going through that. That would be my worst nightmare. Like, how do you decide? Anyway, not the point. Yeah, so it's just another mystery, really, of them trying to find out where Toby is. His real daughter Eve comes into the story, not who she says she is at all, and it was so frustrating reading it, because Avery's trying to tell people, especially Grayson, that Eve is not who she said, and he just would not believe her. I'm like, believe her. She literally doesn't lie to you. She's been in your life longer, believe her. So I was getting frustrated by that, but whatever. And in the end, she ends up giving like 90% of her fortune to like charity or something, and forming her own game. Because in these books, all the games that they're competing in was created by Tobias Hawthorne, which is the guy that's dead and gave her the inheritance. So now that these games are finished, they don't have any of these other games to play, like mysteries to solve and shit. So she's actually created her own game called The Grandest Game, where she will either bring in the brothers or she'll bring in random people and they can win a fortune. So each to our own, spend your money how you will. She does have like $43 billion, so like fair play, honestly. I did thoroughly enjoy this book. Now the last book I read of March was Air of Fire. I'll say this once, I'll say it again. I love Sarah J Maas's books. Okay, call me basic. Like, nearly everyone that I talk to has read A Court of Thorns and Roses, that series, ACOTAR. But there's a reason for that. I hate when people are like, oh my god, you're so basic, you've read a series everyone reads. Because there's a reason for that. It's good, okay? So going into Throne of Glass, I was not expecting to love it this much. But I can already tell it's probably going to be my favourite series by the time it's ended. Now, I had some problems with this book at the beginning. So I rated it as a 4.5. And that's my least favourite out of the three I read. The other three I read, I rated them all a 5-star. Now, that could also be because it's like, you know, the world building, introducing characters, things like that. So you're getting used to the books. Whereas this one, actual things are beginning to happen. Like, you don't know certain people in these books, whereas in those ones you didn't either, but you learned to love them. I struggled at the beginning in this book because each chapter is like a different POV from different places in this world. So there was Selena with a new character called Rowan, and they're trying to adapt to her Fae abilities and bring them out, and she's actually a queen. She's meant to be the heir to the throne, so they're trying to build that up and make her become that. She forms this kind of relationship with Rowan. I don't really know where that's going, but we'll see, because I thought she was going to end up with Kale, but apparently not. So I'm not going to get my hopes up. But then in the other POV, it was Marin, this witch. They fly with him, like, I don't really know, not much to her story really, to be honest. I like her though, she seems cool. And they've got iron teeth and iron claws and stuff, it's just cool. I love a witch in a book, I don't know why, I just really do. And then the other POV was Kale and Dorian and Aedion or Aiden, whatever. Which Aedion is Selena's cousin. But Selena's cousin when she was Aelin, the heir to the throne. So she's now an assassin, Selena, but she once was Aelin, the heir to the throne. So he's her cousin, and Kale and him are trying to help her, really, and so is Dorian, but Dorian's also formed this relationship with a healer and things like that. Anyway, it ends with Aelin, so Selena, forgetting her assassin roots. She's now the heir to the throne, and she's created a blood bond with Rowan, and then ended everything with Kale, like no relationship there, always love each other, no relationship. I don't know. It's just very, and like Dorian is like basically trapped by his father. His father's a dick, quite frankly. I hope nothing good happens to him. He's a dick. I love Dorian. I really do. He's so sweet to Selena. I love him. Anyway, so yeah, I think the only reason I didn't rate this 5 because I was confused at the beginning. I wasn't confused. It's just I preferred certain chapters over the others, but obviously that's to be expected when you don't really know what's happening. Because I started to enjoy it more once I knew people better. So yes, I rated this a 4.5 star, and I can't wait to read the next ones. These are the 6 books I read in March. I had a very good reading month again. What now? Now I'm going to pick my April TBR. I'm going to pick 6 books again. Don't hate me. I literally haven't read the 6 books I've picked off my TBR at all. Because I always pick super chunky books, I feel like. And yeah, I have no excuse whatsoever. I'm going to pick 6 books of my TBR, but the trick here is I'm not actually going to pick all of them. So I'm going to pick 6 books, but I'm not going to pick all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 2 books. So I'm going to pick 2 prompts, and I'm going to pick 2 books off my TBR cart. But I'm also going to get Lacey, Bodhi, Tabitha, if she will, and my mum to also pick a prompt, and then they can pick a book off my TBR cart. I will probably regret this because I have so many new books in my cart that I am desperate to read, and I just don't think people are going to pick them for me. But let's go through the books I really want to read. I actually yesterday got Spark of the Everflame, which I've been desperate to read, and I am so desperate to read it. I don't really know anything about it. Bodhi actually read me the blurb yesterday when I was on my deathbed. I've heard so many good things about it. I've heard that the second book specifically is amazing. Third book, I only think just recently came out, but that's meant to be really good. Really would love to read that. The other day I actually got All In, which is the 3rd book in the Natural series, which I'm so eager to get back into these books. It feels like it's been forever since I read the 2nd one. It literally hasn't been. I have 2 of these books left, and I'm desperate to get to this, so I really hope someone picks this for me or I get it. I would like to read The Nightingale because I've heard it's literally so sad. I wouldn't mind a cry for like a relatively good reason. Okay. I don't know what it is. I think it's ever since the new Hunger Games book came out. I'm so desperate to read the first Hunger Games book, and I have them. So I really would love to read them. Look, I would love to get another Throne of Glass book. If I don't, I'll probably pick one up anyway. But they're like the general books I would love to get to this month. So who knows what people will pick for me, if they'll be nice or not, but they better be because I'll get my revenge otherwise. Let's pick that first prompt. Okay, first prompt is choose the book with the least amount of pages. Okay, I really like this prompt because I think some books I want to read have very little pages. This book has 376 pages. Nope. So, this book actually has 356 pages. And I have had this on my TBR, I think, one other time, and I didn't get around to reading it. I have heard, actually, a few people talk about this recently because it's been released in a shorter version, like this kind of size. So, this is a no because it's longer. So it says, on an idyllic private Greek island, former movie star Lana Farah, an old friend, invites a select group of us to stay. It'll be hot, sunny, perfect, chance to relax and reconnect. and maybe for a few hidden truths to come out, but nothing on this island is quite what it seems. Not Lana, not her guest, certainly not the murderer furiously plotting their crime. But who am I? My name is Elliot Chase, and I'm going to tell you a story unlike any you've ever heard. I mean, it sounds good. So it's like a thriller, I guess. So this is the first book on my TBR for April, which is choose the book with the least amount of pages. And I am actually intrigued. Be good to get an older book off my TBR card, I'd say. The next prompt. A free pick. Oh my god, that is literally the best prompt ever. Oh my god, I'm so excited, but what do I pick? I'm in between two books. Do I pick Spark of the Everflame or All In? I think I'm gonna pick Spark of the Everflame. What, it's 401 pages. Shall I read you the blurb? In a mortal world colonized by the gods and ruled over by the Descended, their cruel magic-wielding offspring, DM Bellator yearns to escape the insular life of her poor village. When her mother suddenly disappears and DM discovers a dangerous secret about her past, she seizes an unexpected opportunity to enter the dark world of Descended royalty and unlock the web of mysteries her mother left behind. With the dying king's handsome, enigmatic heir watching her every move and a ruthless rebel alliance recruiting her to join the growing civil war, DM will have to navigate the unwritten rules of love, power, and politics in order to save her family and all of her mortal kind. I just really want to love it. I really hope it's good. So this is the second book on my April TBR of Free Pick. I'm so excited. Okay, so now I'm going to go get Lacey and she can pick my next TBR prompt.
A book with a cover you love. Okay.
Any book.
Well, obviously. Okay. I'm just taking the covers. You're gonna read The Nightingale. Have fun.
I actually
I feel like it's gonna
be sad. Yeah, I know. I'm a bit nervous. Look how little.
Sisters and
I
their
reckon it'll be
different
good.
lives throughout the war.
I hope I like it. Everyone say thank you, Lacey. Tabitha pick a book for me. Pick one of these. Tabitha does not read. You don't!
Choose the book with the most amount of pages.
Oh, great.
Is that it?
You have to pick one.
Oh.
Well, if it's in this series, it's this one.
648.
How many is that?
619. This one.
This is the book. How many pages?
648.
Yay. Say thanks, Tabitha.
Can't read that. An intriguing
First sentence.
in a book.
Mm.
So I have to open them and read every single one.
No. Just ones you think look interesting.
Oh, have you already read this one?
No.
I think this one. I'm not even looking further. He said, I read his introduction, that's why. And it is intriguing. When I'm asked, as I frequently am, what I consider to be the most frightening book I've ever written, the answer I give comes easily and with no hesitation. Pet Cemetery. That's intriguing because I've read a lot of his books.
Mhm. Thanks. So as you would have just seen, I had Lacey, Tabitha, and my mum pick me a book. So I'll get Bodhi to pick me my final book for my April TBR later. But Lacey picked me. Her prompt was a book with a cover you love. She picked me The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which I'm very intrigued about this book. I'm very excited to read it. Heard I probably will cry. It's gonna happen eventually from a book, so I'm not really entirely sure. I just know it's about sisters. It's actually Goodreads' best historical novel of the year. This story is about what it's like to be a woman during the war, when women's stories are all too often forgotten or overlooked. It's set in World War II. Yeah, I don't know what it's about at all, but it's a relatively shorter book. It's like 438 pages. Very intrigued to read. I heard you will cry. So. And then Tabitha got the prompt of a book with the most amount of pages, and she picked for me Queen of Shadows, which has 645 pages. So this is the next book in the Throne of Glass series. So after this I have 3 books left, and holy creduli, the last book is gigantic. It's huge. So I'm ready intimidated for that one. But I believe it's just about Selena becoming Aelin, so the Queen of Terrasen. I don't know how to say it, never have. So yeah, I'm very excited to read. Don't know anything about this book. And then my mum got the prompt of a book with an intriguing first sentence, and she picked for me Pet Sematary by Stephen King. But if anyone's going to pick a Stephen King book, it will be my mother. She loves Stephen King. I've seen like a Pet Sematary like remake movie. I don't think I've ever actually seen the proper Pet Sematary. Never read it. I know the general gist of the movie, book, whatever. But I've actually never read any of his older books. I've only read all of his newer books. So I read Fairy Tale, The Institute, and now I'm reading You Like It Darker. So they're all his newer books that have been released in the last like 5 years, I think, like roughly 3 to 5 years. So I haven't never read any of the older books, but of his older books. But what a better time to start than now? Am I right? Like, my mum has a lot of his books, so like I could just read them all if I really wanted to. I feel like if you've heard of Stephen King, you've probably heard of the Pet Sematary, so I'm intrigued. But I'll come back to you when Bodhi picks my final TBR prompt. Bodhi's turn.
What have we got here? Allow someone to pick a book from your TBR.
You can pick any then.
I can pick anyone I want. Let's go. I think I know what I'm going to pick. But we'll have a look. It's between one of these two. This one and this one. I'm going to hold them up and see the reaction in Alex's face. This one. And this, it's Hunger Games. I saw that smoke.
I'm smoking because you made me laugh.
I'm picking the Hunger Games. I wanted to pick that one anyways. You'll read this at some point. Good pick. Let's go. That one.
It's good to be alive. This is a bit random, but I forgot to end off and like tell you what books I ended up getting completely. So for the last book, I got Brody to pick it for me, and he got the prompt of a free pick, I believe, like a book of his choosing, and he picked for me The Hunger Games, which I'm very, 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 very excited to start. I've seen the movies. It's kind of like the Harry Potter thing where I've seen them, don't really remember properly things that happen, so I'm excited to read these, and every time I finish one of these I'll watch the movie. So yes, he picked this for me. I'm very thankful for that, and he loves these books, so can't wait to talk about them with him. So these are the 6 books that I picked and that were chosen for me for April. Bit of a mix in there. Got a couple of fantasy, got some horror, some World War action, some mystery. What would you classify Hunger Games as? I don't really know, but sad stuff. Like, lots to look forward to this month. Honestly, I think this is my best TBR month I've had, and I'm very excited, and I am determined to get to all these books. So that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed my March wrap up and picking my April TBR, and I can't wait to update you on what I read this month. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.